In Italy, more than 1,200 people have died. 17,000 are infected with coronavirus. While the country remains on lockdown, NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley is in Rome.
Hey, Allison. So I've been here for about 72 hours. And, when I got here, this city was very quiet. It was already under lockdown. But there were businesses that were operating throughout the day. The restaurants and the bars, they were all allowed to be open, but only until 6 p.m. And that's when they were supposed to be shut down. This by government decree. But for the last more than 24 hours now, everything has been shut all the time. That's why when you listen, when you quiet yourself and listen to what's going on in Rome, you don't hear anything. You just hear birds chirping, seagulls, that kind of thing. This is Rome. This is a frenetic, sometimes angry city, really active. And now all you can hear is this deafening, somewhat eerie silence. And this is going to go on for quite a while. But we do see some signs of solidarity. Just behind me, you can see this sign, Andrà tutto bene. That means everything will be all right. This is a sign that we're starting to see throughout the city hanging from windows. Everything will be all right has become kind of a rallying cry for an entire country of 60 million people where rallies are now illegal. And you actually can get fined 60 euros or more for walking around on the streets. And the reason behind all this, of course, is that Italy has become the worst hit country by the coronavirus after China. There's now more than 1,000 deaths and more than 15,000 infections. That's very serious, and it just goes to show that this country has gone past the tipping point. But the Romans that we've talked to have said that, they're wondering if all of these harsh measures are even going to work because the deaths and the infections keep spiraling upward despite the unprecedented crackdown on public life. It's a lesson for countries throughout Western Europe and the United States. The Romans that we've talked to have wondered if this is going to just wash up onto U.S. shores, this kind of restrictions, and whether Americans, like Romans and Italians who have a very individualistic outlook, are going to accept these kind of restrictions in the name of the public good. It's a big question, and one that is going to be continually asked as this disease starts to spread, indeed really expands even faster outside of China and the East into the more liberal, more capitalist West, where government intervention into people's private lives is not acceptable under most circumstances. Now, Americans and Westerners are going to have to get used to the fact that they could be fined, even imprisoned, for walking through the streets. And that's what we're going to be looking forward to as the days and weeks go on. A lot of Italians that I've been speaking to have been wondering just how long Italians are going to obey the rules that have been imposed by their government, or whether or not they're going to get frustrated, especially as the economy starts to tank. But until now, the only thing that we can hear around Rome, any indications of whether or not this system that's been put in place just quite recently is fraying, we can't really tell. The only thing we can hear now is silence.
Starting on Monday, Walt Disney World in Florida and Disneyland Paris will close until the end of the month. Disney's cruise line will also suspend any new cruises during that same time period. The last time the park was closed was 9/11. The move follows a similar one from Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure, which will be closed starting Saturday morning, all in an effort to contain the spread of coronavirus. NBC News correspondent Kerry Sanders joins me now from Orlando. Kerry, disappointing news for families who are planning spring break trips in the next month. But how about the Disney cast members and employees? What does this mean for them?
Disney World shutting down is really unusual. It's a park opened here in Orlando in 1971. It's officially only shut down 4 times, and that was because of hurricanes. The 9/11 shutdown that you're talking about was really sort of shuttered for hours. They never officially called it a shutdown. But this shutdown, which will go to the end of the month, is dramatic, unprecedented for the reason this is the largest location of single-site employees for any company in the nation. There are more than 70,000 Disney World employees. They call them cast members here. They will all not have to come to work because it is shut down. Disney has made the decision to continue to pay them, but as you can imagine, tourists who are here will now be leaving. That's going to have an impact on hotels. It's going to impact the restaurants. It's going to impact the servers who work at the restaurants, who rely on tips. A server, if they're getting their tips, makes an okay, decent wage. If they don't, it falls back to a system that in Florida pays them $5.54 an hour that the restaurant would pay. I spoke to a server the other day. She said that has never happened in her 10-year career where the restaurant has had to pay her because she's always been able to make the money in tips. To give you an idea, Orlando itself has, and we've written these numbers down because it's sort of like mind-boggling to consider the numbers of people who come here. 50 million make their way to the airport, but the number of people who come here to Orlando on vacation is 126 million people a year. So you have people flying in the airport, people driving here, spending money. In the state of Florida, we're talking about an $88.6 billion tourism impact, people coming here spending money. Why is that important in this state more than just about any other state? The state constitution here has an exclusion that there is no state income tax. The people who pay for this government in this state to run are the tourists who rent a car, maybe unknowingly, are paying a tax. Rent a room, pay a tax. Buy food, pay a tax. All of this being sucked out of the system is going to have a dramatic impact on the state and here in the county. I spoke to the county mayor here, Demings, who said that when I asked him, how do you put this into perspective? And he looked at it and he goes, well, if we look at 2004, when we had those 3-4 hurricanes that hit the state, this is even more epic because he believes this is going to go on maybe for 6 to 8 weeks, but everybody is looking at a crystal ball, just trying to guess how long the impact is going to go. As you said at the top here, Disney is going to close to the end of the month. And when Disney made its announcement, Disney World here, when they made their announcement, others followed suit. You had Universal Studios here in Orlando, SeaWorld, Busch Gardens over in Tampa, Legoland, which is nearby, and then beyond here, places that also have fallen into suit like Six Flags, Knott's Berry Farms, some water parks. So this is having an impact, Allison, for just about everywhere people would be going. And last thing I would point out, of course, is it's all about spring break right now. So all of this coming at a time when people would be opening their wallets.
Carrie, as you said, it couldn't come at a worse time. Anyone who's ever tried to book a trip to Florida or has been to Florida this time of year knows, I mean, this is part of the peak season when they are making all of their money. I know Disney also owns hotels. They have retail stores, restaurants. Any changes there so far?
Our understanding is that the hotels will remain open for people who are here. For those who have come on vacation to Orlando to go to theme parks, often set aside 6 days for a park, 2 days just at the hotel, swimming in the pool, etc. So there may be some restrictions at the hotel because everybody's trying to work in this social distancing, keeping apart. But from what we understand, the hotels themselves will remain open. But you know, you're on vacation, it's all falling apart. Do you go home? I think a lot of families that we've spoken to are now asking that question. Should we stay or should we just leave? It just doesn't feel right to stay because it doesn't feel like a vacation. I mean, there's a lot of anxiety, of course, around the nation. And usually a vacation is to get away from all of the pressures.
Sure.
And you can't get away from it. Everywhere you look, people are talking about it, and this is topic number one.
Yeah, definitely not the spring break a lot of folks had bargained for. Kerry Sanders in Orlando, thank you so much.
Sure.